Hello, my name is Hans Jeevers. I'm a contributor for Pro Golf Now and Fansided.com, and I write primarily about DFS sports. And for the last 2 years or so, I've been writing specifically about DFS golf, although I've been playing fantasy sports for the last 20 years or so, back when you had to mail in your lineups for football. But although I've just started writing for DFS golf for the last 2 years, I've been playing it pretty much from the outset when it came on to Draftkings. Now I play every week. I've been playing every week for several years now. So a few years ago, I decided to take a stab at writing articles and trying to help people out with their weekly lineups. So there's kind of a backdrop on myself. Last week was my first podcast, and this week I'm returning with a podcast covering the Charles Schwab Challenge, the first tournament back since the PGA Tour had a stoppage of play due to the COVID-19 virus. First off, if you could hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it. It helps with the algorithms and makes it where my video is more out there on YouTube. Also, if you subscribe, that'd be awesome as well. Hopefully, some of the things I talk about today will be helpful to you as you compile lineups for fantasy golf this week. I'll touch base on a few things. Draftkings has the pricing out already. FanDuel does not as of today. We're 6 days away from the Charles Schwab Challenge. So what I'll do today is go over a few of my picks, discuss the course briefly, and I should also mention that this morning my article covering the Charles Schwab Challenge was published on Fansided.com. So I'll make a reference to some of the picks there, and you can get more details from the article regarding more of my picks. So let's just hit a few of those and talk about the course. So first of all, as I mentioned, this is the first tournament back since the Players' Championship was postponed after the first round about 3 months ago. So the Charles Schwab Challenge is usually not a tournament that has a robust field of talent. However, this year, due to the fact they haven't played for 3 months, you have a stacked field, almost major-esque field at the Charles Schwab Challenge. So it's going to be fun to watch. This tournament is held at the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas. I believe it's been held there for 47 or 48 years. It's the longest running event held at the same site that's not a major on the PGA Tour. So from a fantasy perspective, what that means to you and for me is that you have a ton of course data to evaluate to see which guys really like this track. So let's talk about the golf course real quick. The golf course is a classical tree-lined design with small greens that are averaging about 4,500 square feet. So this is not, the John Deere Classic. You got wide fairways and you just hammer it, and who cares where it falls. You're going to be penalized, and it's going to be punitive if you don't put the ball in the correct spots off the tee, and for that matter, on your second shots approaching the green. I would also say that your short game is going to be, look, every week the short game and putting is important, okay? Anybody would say, hey, what are you talking about? Well, this week it's just emphasized that much more. We're talking about very small greens, not massively large greens like some tournaments on the PGA Tour. Greens and regulation actually matter here. GIR on a course where the greens are the size of my house, well, it's great that you had high GIR, but hell, I could do that. So this is different. This is where we're talking about second shots from the fairway are important. And if you miss the green, you're going to need to be savvy. Now, I will say that if you're not the greatest of ball strikers, but you are great scrambling and you do well with strokes gained around the green, strokes gained putting, you can still find a path to victory. So I need to emphasize that. So I think of like a Brent Snedeker. Brent Snedeker is outstanding when it comes to the short game, to putting. He's an outstanding putter, okay? Now, I will say Brent Brant, I recommended this week. He prefers the West Coast type of grass, the Polana, I believe, greens, but this will be bent grass, and he's done decent on the bent grass. So since I mentioned Brent Brant, let's go ahead and talk about him. I did mention him in the article. He's a mid-tier price of $7,800 on DraftKings. Prior to the stoppage of play this year, he had played his last eight events on the tour. He has 4 top 22 finishes in those 8 tournaments. So he's also played very well at this track previously. So I like that a lot as well. Brant is a guy that is going to fare well on a course like this. As far as correlating courses go, one that comes to mind immediately is an RBC Heritage in South Carolina. Similar type track, tree-lined fairways. You got to hit those greens. It's highly important. You just can't pound it out there like a Dustin Johnson. And who cares where it lands? That's not the case here, nor is it at RBC Heritage. So if you wanted to look at a player that, let's say, that you like this week, you see that he's done halfway decent on this track previously. You can look at the RBC Heritage. If he's done well there, where you're connecting some puzzle pieces there. So let's talk about the DraftKings pricing real quick. The top tier starts with Rory McIlroy at $11,800, drops down to Jon Rahm at $11 flat. Both of these guys deserve those prices. McIlroy leads off my picks for the week. I know he has not played competitive golf in 3 months. He did play a charity match a month or so ago. But that is one variable that you need to think about as you're compiling your lineups. How much rust will these guys have? How many guys have played? How many haven't in this downtime? And you may be asking, what do you mean? How could they play? Well, they could have played on mini tours, as some did. Joel Dahman played in the Scottsdale, Arizona Open, which is a minor tour event, a mini tour event rather, about 3 weeks ago, just to get the rust off. It only had a prize for the winner of $20,000. I think he finished, second or third. So there's a little things. I like to see that. Who has played recently? There's been some players that have gotten together just to try to find a way of getting some quality golf in, feeling it as its own competitive environment. Some guys got together last week in Sea Island, Georgia. Johnson Wagner, some other players of significance. Some players also got together at TPC Sawgrass and had a simulated type event just to get the feel, get their feet wet before they start competitive golf again here at the Schwab on June 11th. So, as I mentioned earlier, the pricing on the top tier, Rory McIlroy, I mean, if you look at his record over his last 13 events, it's just unbelievable. I mean, the guy deserves to be the #1 ranked golfer in the world. He's been playing outstanding. I believe he has 3 wins in his last 13 events. For any golf fans out there that may recall the British Open, which was played in Dublin, I believe, and he was a big favorite, and he missed the cut there. That was over a year ago now, I believe. But since then, he's been on fire, and he won the Tour Championship to finish the last regular season. Won a nice, cool $15 million at the Tour Championship for finishing first. But I should also mention that Rory has not played this track before. So if you're looking at prior course history, if that's a big deal to you, he's never played here. I'm not that concerned. I've seen him play at courses that he's never played before rather recently. I think at Kapalua in Hawaii. He had never played there. I believe it was last year, and I think he finished top 3. So, I mean, this guy's game transcends course history. We're not talking about Brian Stewart. No offense, Mr. Stewart, the PGA Tour journeyman. We're talking about the #1 player in the world who's highly motivated, in my opinion. So I'm leading off my picks with Rory at 11,800. One of the reasons I'm going with him is because there is value in the bottom portion of the pricing this week. I look at a Jimmy Walker, which is in my article. Jimmy is in my article, one of my picks. I think he could break the slate this week. He has performed well at the Colonial Country Club, specifically this event, in the past. And if you look at Jimmy's game, he is a Texan, and he has played very well in courses in his home state previously. Additionally, prior to the stoppage of regular season play due to the COVID-19 virus, Jimmy had 2 top 24 finishes in his last event, 2 events. So hopefully he can keep that going, even though we've had that stoppage in play. So Jimmy Walker at 6,700. I'll give you him on this video. Rory McIlroy will lead my player selections. Just love his game coming in here. John Rahm at 11,000 was considered. He's performed well here in the past, although he did miss the cut last year. But with John Rahm, that's just what he does. He's an outstanding player. I'm not worried about him missing the cut last year. However, in the top tier, I just like Rory a little bit more. So I'm rolling with Rory in the majority of my GPP Draftkings lineups. And in the lower tier, Jimmy Walker at 6,700. If you'd like to take a look at the rest of my picks for the week on Draftkings, please take a look at my article, which is on fansided.com. And I'm also on Twitter at Jeevers Golf. If you follow me on Twitter, I publish my articles on Twitter as soon as they pop up on Fansided or Pro Golf Now. So feel free to follow me. Again, if you don't mind smashing that like button for me, subscribing, it'd be outstanding. I'm really enjoying the podcast that I just started, and I'd like to see it continue to be successful. But more importantly, I hope you do well. I hope you take some of the data that I gave you in this short video and it helps you. Take care, and we'll see you next week.